Annie Wen from Popcorn Movies Taiwan.
Hello.
Hi. Hi, Johannes.
How are
nice
you?
to meet you. Hi, Robbie.
Hi, Annie. How are you?
Good. How are you? Hi, Kaya. Congratulations on the baby. You must be super excited and exhausted at the same time.
I'm very excited. This is less exhausting than when we shot the movie. This is the good part.
Hello? What's your name?
Still happen here.
不要怀疑，这真的是惊悚恐怖片。虽然对米拉·乔瓦维奇版本还记忆犹新的观众可能会大喊哇哩嘞，但《恶灵古堡首部曲》拉昆市既然是重启，在电玩迷导演的参与下，绝对要忠于当年下的玩家皮皮擦最原汁原味的恐怖。
I must confess that I scream a lot during screening. I hate you for that. You grew up playing old game and heard that you got your life scared out of you playing the first game. What happened?
Yes, I grew up playing Resident Evil 1 and 2. I think I was about 8 years old when I was sitting in my basement in the dark playing Resident Evil, and the dogs jumped through the window, and it just scared the hell out of me.
Was it a what?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
What were the three most important elements to a successful horror movie like this, but different from other horror movies?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, on one level, you have to. I mean, you have to scare people. That it's not just jumps. You have to really believe in the characters, and it was very. It's a tricky thing, especially with so many characters in this kind of ensemble world that Resident Evil is, like that we did with the movie where we had all the different characters. You needed to like believe in them and believe in the world, and then suddenly you got very scared for them and for what was going to happen. The biggest thing that really helped me on this was my sort of guiding star on this was the remake of the second game, which was so I found so beautiful and so terrifying, and it was all about tone and atmosphere of dread and terror that puts people on the edge at all times. Just scare them. Just scare them as often as you can. Make them jump, make them scream, make them enjoy. It's a very communal experience. You should be like, a whole audience should be like getting up and screaming,
Watch out! What was your first reaction when you got this role, and what was the first thing you did after learning that news?
I was really excited. I was sent the script in 2019, and I knew the director through another director that I had worked with, and we got talking, and he explained to me what he wanted to do with this version of the movies, and how he wanted to take it more in a horror direction, and I thought that was really cool. I thought that was really interesting, and so I said yes. And the first thing I did was I started researching the games, because I'd never actually played them myself before. So the first thing I did was buy a PlayStation and buy a copy of the game and sit there terrified while I tried to play it.
I got off the Zoom meeting with Johannes Roberts, the director, and we spoke for about an hour, and we just geeked out about the games and his version of the movie and the tone and the Easter eggs and everything. And at the end of the call, he said, "Okay, well, I'd love to make this movie with you, so I'll see you soon." And he hung up, and I was like, I think I got this. And I walked out, and my wife was standing there. I was like, I think I'm the guy. I think I'm doing Resident Evil. And she was like, "Oh my God," and ran over and gave me a big hug. And it was just a total childhood dream come true for me. And it totally delivered. The whole experience, top to bottom, was an absolute blast.
I'm a massive gamer, so and massive fan of the franchise. I was super excited to take over the reins of the franchise, but it was one of those sort of weird things where it was like, okay, let's do it. And then for a while we all sat around and went, but what are we going to do? Like, how are we going to take this forward? I think for a while we knew what we wanted to reboot the franchise, and they very much knew that they wanted to make it scary because they hired a guy that loves making scary stuff. But for a while we didn't quite know how to do it, but it was great when it all kind of came together. It's like, yeah, let's do the game. Let's really just get in and do the games.
How was the first costume fitting? It must be a fun moment too, right?
Oh yeah, that was one of the first memories, or like big memories, was trying to find, the right flak jacket or bulletproof vest to match from the movies or from the games. And, they had the green Vietnam flak jacket, and we tried it on, and I was just like, it's perfect. Like, it's just like out of the games. They sent pictures to Capcom, and Capcom sent a note back, no notes. It's perfect. He looks like Chris Redfield.
So did you steal one of those things back home after shooting?
I wish. Hopefully we get a sequel so I can steal one next time.
I know you can help us sending pictures of the set to some of your gamer friends, right?
Yeah, I put. I shouldn't tell you this because I'm sure I was not allowed to, but there were two of my buddies who are just diehard fans, but are also, two of my best friends who are super trustworthy. So they were the only two people besides my wife that I sent any pictures to, and they, like, the whole way along the shoot, they just couldn't believe how cool all these things were. The sets, the props, the Easter eggs, they were like, oh man, you guys are doing it right.
Did you start training and calling your inner Linda Hamilton right away?
Yeah, I mean, my Linda Hamilton is always in me. She's my hero. So she's always ready to go. But I did start training. I worked with a personal trainer here in London. And then once I got to Canada, we did a lot of armory training so that I could look as natural as possible, especially with the shotgun, because that's so iconic to Claire Redfield. I wanted to make sure that I could carry it the whole time and I was holding it properly. We also did a lot of training with the dogs and with the motorbike and things like that to make sure that I was as comfortable as possible.
Good thing was I've had quite a bit of gun training. When I moved to LA, my wife and I got a little membership at the firing range nearby, so I was comfortable with the firearm side of things. And then the stunt department was so great in choreographing the fight scenes, really laying out and really selling the fight scenes, and I think that's why it plays so authentic and looks so dangerous.
You are already so experienced in action scenes, and everything must be like working apart for you, right?
No, not at all. No, what I love about action movies is that every day is different and that every day is really hard. And especially on this job, I mean, it was different in that we were on set every single day, and it was all shot at nighttime. So for 3 months, we didn't see any daylight. We were just filming at night. It was very, very cold. It was Canadian winter. And because of the pandemic, none of us could have our families with us. So we were very isolated. So it was particularly difficult on this one, but we had a really amazing stunt team who helped us through it and who made sure everything was safe. And so that we could do the correct things. But doing action movies, it's always difficult and it's always fun.
You still got some bruises, right?
Yeah, definitely.
But you end up with a 6-inch long gash on your arms. Ouch.
Yeah, it's finally healed up. I had a nice little scar for a little while along here, but one of the stunt players, when they were grabbing, their nail just went like right into my skin, and I had so much fake blood on me, you couldn't tell until I washed everything off, and there was just like a hole in my arm, but it worked for the role, so it was okay.
Lock the gates.
Besides the action challenges, and almost every scene of yours was in the rain. You say you shot it in October to December. It must be freezing cold, right?
It was the coldest set I've ever worked on. It was so cold that when we were doing the rain, so we had to have pretend rain because you can't control the weather. So we would have these big towers that would make it rain. But it was so cold in Canada that as soon as the water came out of the tower, it would freeze and turn to ice. So it would turn to snow basically and hail. So we had to find ways of that not happening. There was a day where I had to lay on the ground and my skin got stuck to the ground because it was so icy and cold. It was definitely physically the most challenging because of how cold it was.
I can imagine how difficult it was for you all.
It was very, very hard, yes. It was hard because when we went there, like, everybody was having to quarantine. It was so hard to get everybody in a place at a time. So quite often we would start filming without, start building the sets, but the production designer hadn't yet arrived into the country. And then we would, the filming was like, I mean, I have never experienced such cold. Like, it was just like a knife. And we would be bundled up and like with electric, I'd have like electric gloves and stuff to keep me warm. And poor Kaya would have to be like, she would have to be in this tiny little leather jacket and, like being tough and mean. And the rain would coming down at times it was so cold, the rain machine would freeze up. And she's having to stand there and you're having to work out how to film her because as soon as the rain touches her body, it evaporates. So she's just like steaming. She's like a little smoking girl, like walking around and you're like, oh my God, what am I going to do about that? So yeah, it was really tough, and it was tough as a director. Your job is to sort of communicate with all your team and inspire people and create a sort of big family, as it were. And I didn't know who anybody was because everybody's with hoods, with masks, with scarves and everything. So, and it's all nighttime, and so I would go home to my wife and I'd say I spoke to someone for like an hour today. I don't know if they were on the movie or not. They would just be standing there and we'd be talking about stuff, and I'd be like, I don't know who you are, but so it was a really tough experience.
You insisted on shooting this film as real as possible, and you've always been someone who responds to abandoned, weird locations. And what was the first reaction that oh, it is the one?
Yeah, it's a very gut thing. I love when we were looking at where to shoot this, and we came across this little old mining town outside Toronto. It's about 4 hours outside Toronto, called Sudbury. And I got there, and as soon as I got there, I was like, oh, I felt the vibe of the place. And I was like, this is Raccoon City. This is exactly where I want to set the whole thing. So we moved there, and then I would just go around every day on my bike, and I would cycle around the place taking pictures of all the abandoned buildings and everything. And I'd be like, okay, let's go here, let's have a look at this, let's do this. And it's just I would just get very excited by this kind of, it was a slightly dying town, it was an old mining town. Part of it was very run down, and I just got very excited by these old buildings, and it really inspired the whole movie. So yeah, it's a real gut thing of it's like an art critic would have staring at a beautiful piece of art. I get when I'm staring at an old abandoned factory or old school or whatever. I'd be like, oh, this is yes, here, let's go film here, let's go film there.
From the orphanage, RPD to Spencer Mansion, and Jonas insisted on using real sets. And how was it to step into those creepy sets, and which one is your favorite?
Yeah, it was amazing. It's actually really rare nowadays that you get to build real sets. A lot of the time it is computer generated. But like you said, Johannes really wanted it to feel like the games and to feel real. And as an actor, that's amazing because you get to touch the walls and smell the smells, and especially the orphanage, which we actually shot in an abandoned boys' school. And it really did feel creepy. There were still old beds in there and old picture frames, and it had a very strange atmosphere about it. And I think that really helped us in the scenes in that location.
Well, the amazing thing was he went to Capcom and got the blueprints so that he could make them as accurate as possible. And I'll never forget stepping into the Spencer Mansion for the first time, just in that front room in that foyer. It just is straight out of the video game. And it was one of those pinch me moments where I'm like, geez, this is so cool. I mean, I was here in my basement, 25 years ago, and now here I am standing there in real life making the movie.
And there are so many details, Easter eggs for the fans. So which one amazed you the most?
I just thought, the sets were unbelievable, but I really enjoyed, I was sitting in the laboratory and there were green and red and blue herbs behind me, which were straight out of the game. They're never talked about, they're just there. And I just was like, this is just a nice touch. It seems so obvious, but they're just there and they're so great.
We have to contain this.
I heard that you've been scared by the zombies of set too, right?
Yeah, definitely. They're really scary. Yeah, our makeup team was amazing and they put a lot of work in. But there were certain days where I didn't know if the stunt men were going to be in makeup yet or not. And I would think that they would look normal, but they'd already had the makeup on. So that was very scary.
There were different names of zombies, like Walking Dead and...
Yeah, we had categories of different stages of how much the virus had taken them over or not. So they begin still looking quite human, and then we go all the way through to mutated, the worst possible kind of zombie.
What is your favorite creature or zombie moment?
For me, it was straight out of the game. The very first zombie I see, who's hunched over, eating one of my buddies.
What the?
That's straight out of the game. The look over the shoulder back, the white coat, and that was awesome. It was straight out of the cutscene. Johannes nailed it, and that was really cool. That was also, I think, the first zombie that first zombie interaction that I actually shot on the movie. So it was a nice timing.
For me, she's not really a creature, but Lisa Trevor, I think, is very special to Claire. Terrifying to look at, but there is something still very human about her, which I think is really interesting. And the way she moves and how fast she can be and aggressive. She was my favorite to watch.
If you could ask for one thing in the sequel, what would it be?
Oh man, I've heard, I don't even know if this is true, so I might get my hand slapped, but I've heard that he's mentioned Code Veronica as something that he would want to adapt as the sequel, which I think would be a really, really awesome adaptation. So I think that there are much smarter, better people than me for the job of adapting the sequel, and I just would love to be a part of it.
More daylight for us to shoot the scenes in the daytime in Hawaii. I think they should somewhere really hot.
That would be perfect.
Yeah, that makes sense,
yes.
right?
We're gonna take Umbrella down.
Hey everyone in Taiwan, it's Robbie and Mel. I think you guys should go see this movie in the movie theaters because it's just better on the big screen with the big sound. It's scary, it's fun, the music is fantastic. It's a great time.
Hi everyone in Taiwan. Please go watch Resident Evil in movie theaters.
Get out of this town!